Hello and welcome to another episode of Enter their Nerdosphere, the official podcast for their Nerdosphere, your home for everything in the Nerdosphere.
I guess it is.
This week, we're tackling Wonder Woman, the supposed saving grace of the DCEU, and we will discuss shortly whether they delivered or not. I am always M. Clayton, joined always and forever by my brother, Corbin.
Hello. How are you?
Fine.
I've noticed something, and I know that we're going to fix this with our new studio, but as of right now, the way the lighting is, I feel like my face
You're
is
wearing
just
a
like,
hat.
It's like encapsulated in shroud, or in shadow.
You're wearing a hat, and the light is coming from above right now.
Well, that's why I said when we are finished with our studio, it won't have that problem because we'll have lights and stuff. But I'm noticing now as I'm looking at the camera that I need to flip my hat around. Gotta flip it around so you can see my face.
You flip it around.
Expose the 5 pounds I put on the past week and a half. Don't lose it. Had some pasta this past week. My body retains pasta like glue.
It sounds disgusting.
I have to go through a detox just to lose it. But it's fine. Just don't eat for a week and you're back to normal.
Today, we're talking about Wonder Woman. Let's dive right in with opening box office numbers, as usual. If you're new to this podcast, we always start with numbers, critic and audience reception, and then we start talking about what we thought.
We let you know what the peeps think. We let you know what the people who get paid to say stuff think. And then we tell you what we think.
Yup. All right, so opening weekend, they made a solid $103 million domestic, of course.
Much better than King Arthur did.
Let's not talk about King Arthur right now. Oh my goodness. Go back to last week and listen to that.
It's also destroying the Mummy.
Well, no surprise there.
But, not to get up, but those who I've talked to who've seen it say it's good, but the critics are pooping on it. So I don't know.
But is it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to see it this weekend, so we'll find out.
As of right now, which is June 9th, 2017, it has a worldwide box office of $288.6 million. So,
Ching.
Pretty good. Normally I say the budget, but I don't see the budget here, so we'll just skip it for now. It's doing well. That's all.
It's doing very well, especially for what it is.
A DCEU film.
And not only is it a DCEU film, but it's a female-led summer blockbuster, which is one of a kind. It's paved the way. They beat Marvel to the women movie, but Marvel's gonna beat them with the Black Panther movie, breaking down walls.
Does look really good. Let's jump into Metacritic score. As usual, we always go over to Metacritic, and then we jump over to Rotten Tomatoes to get two different viewpoints of user or audience rather, and critic reception. According to the Metascore on Metacritic, it is a 76 out of 100. Okay. That is out of a total of 50 reviews, 45 of which were positive, 5 of which were mixed, and 0 negative reviews according to Metacritic. So,
0 negative?
0 negative.
Well, I mean,
according to Metacritic.
I guess in between.
User score, it's an 8.1 out of 10, so most people like it.
Yeah.
All right, jumping over to Rotten Tomatoes. This is a certified fresh film with 93% on the tomato meter. It's got a average 7.6 out of 10 rating. Reviews counted so far is 285. So audience score is 92%. So a lot of people are liking it. 4.5 out of 5 average rating out of 80,000 user reviews. So Now that we got that out of the way, typically we talk about music first. So,
Okay, so the composer of Wonder Woman was Rupert Gregson Williams, and while some of his songs, like On the Mascara and stuff, definitely set the tone, what I would consider to be a mediocre to pretty good score is overshadowed by that Hans Zimmer stinger from BVS. For me, ruins so many things. I hate that song.
I actually like it.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
You made fun of it in BVS, in our BVS review.
Yeah, but I like it.
You like it now?
Mm-hmm. I do.
All right. So, Rupert Gregson Williams also composed Hacksaw Ridge recently, along with Legend of Tarzan. He also did like the B movie and a bunch of other B level films before that. So it really is not a notable name who's done a whole lot, nor has he done genre films that I think get noticed for score. Like when I think of a war movie, I don't ever think about the score of a war film like Hacksaw Ridge.
Right.
The Legend of Tarzan was such a gray, bleak film that was destroyed by David Yates that you could have had John Williams score that movie, and I would not have remembered a single note because it was just the most appalling experience that I've had in the theater in quite some time. I almost walked out. So his name is attached to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I did not. There are, I don't know, summer blockbusters tend to deliver, I think, with music, if you listen to it. And this one for me was just okay.
Yeah, and if we compare it to Marvel films, Marvel scores usually go above and beyond and deliver. Yeah. And this one, it is forgettable. Although I have grown to like the actual Wonder Woman theme that was recorded with a cello.
Oh, is that what that is?
Mm-hmm. Using distortions on a cello.
Well, maybe Hans Zimmer had one good trick up his sleeve before he pootered out.
Yeah.
From the superhero genre with BVS.
Yeah. Okay, so not a whole lot to discuss there. Normally we go a little bit more into it, but that's because the scores of the films we talk about are usually a little bit more in depth.
And they're usually like by like composers that I really enjoy, like Henry Jackman or Michael Giacchino. You know,
Yeah.
Guys that I like. This guy, I don't know who he is. He hasn't done anything that's really exciting. But don't worry, folks. If you are watching right now, the snowball is rolling. Pretty soon we'll have an avalanche of just words.
All right, let's talk about the story. And for those of you who are listening and haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, we will talk about this spoiler-free at first. At the very end, after we give you our final thoughts,
We'll get down and dirty.
We'll talk about some spoiler stuff, but we'll let you know well beforehand so you can...
But the majority of this film we can talk about without
Spoiling
giving
anything.
stuff away.
Yep.
So,
I'll start us off with some story. I liked the story. It was pretty decent. I think the film, for every good scene, a good scene and good dialogue, there's a scene that's not necessary and full of corny dialogue. Man, it's just like, I walked out actually thinking this is good and it's worth watching, but they really missed the mark for it being a great film because there's dialogue that you just sit in the theater and think, what?
well, it's like I texted you after I saw it. The one things I loved about it was the setting of it being World War I. I thought was really cool. They really played up the trench warfare stuff that I thought was really neat and
The
unique
chemical
to that
warfare
time.
was like the main plot point.
They also, it was just cool watching a movie like that where they actually referred to it as the Great War and the war to end all wars, because like obviously back then they weren't calling it World War One,
Right, yeah.
like we're taught. I was going somewhere with that. What did you use? Oh, okay. So the pointed dialogue, that was another thing I texted you. I said one of the things that I really didn't like was just there was just some on the nose. So like if there was something in the narrative that happened that triggered an emotional response especially out of like Gal Gadot's Diana.
Mm-hmm.
She did a phenomenal job, I think, at acting those expressions. But then right after it was like, this is exactly what I'm feeling because this just happened.
Right, yeah.
But like
It
also
was-
in the cheesiest way possible. I was like, why did you have to say anything? Like you
some of the
had-
dialogue was CW level.
Right, like I was like, you
Just
could have
like-
said nothing, and I would have had chills, and you ruined the momentum of that emotional experience
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
definitely.
the weight of certain scenes. I was like, oh, why did you open your mouth?
Yeah.
And that wasn't her fault because I think
No,
that-
she
did a really good job. I thought, especially
Mm-hmm.
coming off of BVS, where I was like, I mean, she was good, I guess.
well, she wasn't really in it a whole lot, you know.
Right, but she's also coming off of like Fast and the Furious, like movies that are immediately off-putting for us. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, this Fast and Furious actress is gonna play Wonder Woman. Like, why is? But I thought, I don't know, the stuff in the mascara. It was like for me, it was taking the good bits of Captain America and the aesthetics of Thor, and you meshed them together, and it worked quite nicely.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah,
went
definitely.
Full dive into Greek mythology and stuff.
I do like the Greek mythology stuff. I will talk a little bit more about it when we get to the spoiler area because I've got some thoughts on that, but I don't want to get too much into it. I will say, though, that I thought the setting was awesome. I really liked a lot of the setup with showing what the Amazons were, how they fought, how they trained.
Mm-hmm.
That was all really cool. But I really feel like you could have cut like 20 minutes out of that intro. Like it was
long.
it was long.
And the scene where I actually kind of chuckled out loud in the theater where her mom is describing to Diana the origins of the Amazons because it was like Inception because the movie starts at like the end of BVS where she gets the photo of like the group. And so she's basically telling she's
thinking about
she's
it.
thinking
she's
about it.
remembering
So we're not like it's not like Captain America where like we're watching him and then it ends, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like the entire movie is a flashback. But
Yeah.
then we get the flashback into the flashback and I was kind of like okay, we're going deep
Yeah.
into this. But that was when I noticed pacing issues in the movie. It was primarily in the first act and on the mascara, where I was like, it has some momentum and then it falls back. And like this, like the little actress who played young Diana did a good job, but we spent a lot of time with her.
a lot of time, too much time.
Too much time. I
Way
was
too
like,
much
we
time.
could have just compacted this into a nice little, neat little.
They did a really good job at finding
Montage.
a good little actress that sounded like her and looked like her.
Right.
So,
Even the teenager that was there for a brief moment.
yeah, like 2 seconds. Like we didn't even need.
But, like,
we
she-
spent like 30 minutes with the little girl, and we get like 30 seconds of the
Right.
teenage version. But that's kind of all of my thoughts on just the general story, because we'll get into some characters and acting and stuff here in a second. But it did feel like World War One. One thing that, kind of going back to the dialogue point, I felt like Chris Pine especially didn't talk like it was 19.
Yeah, and plus I don't, and
30.
I don't know really the historical accuracies of this, and it might have actually been quite a common thing. But he kept talking about how he worked for British Secret Services and he was American, which I found interesting.
It's been in movies before, and you have to remember that the United States didn't really get super directly involved with World War One until towards the end, similar to World War Two. Like,
Right.
we didn't get involved right away, so it wouldn't have been uncommon for just a few U.S. intelligence people or even just officers to have been lent
Mhm.
or volunteered maybe to go over there. So while it might not have been common, that's probably accurate. So
right.
but I just felt like he didn't talk or act like he talked and acted like Chris Pine, which that character is written like. Chris Pine's the kind of actor where you write a character and Chris Pine is that, like, there's no diversity. Like, Chris Pine
Right.
is that character. And I just feel like there was no skewing towards 1930s.
No. I will
Dialect.
say, and I don't. These next two comments might be morphing into the next section of our outline. I don't know where exactly it falls on the the diagram of like story versus like characters. But
Well, I mean, we can start going into it now because
I think that one, while we're on Chris Pine, I thought the emotional scenes that he had, I thought he did a good job. I'm not used to seeing that. Like, I'm used to Captain Kirk and like other things, where he's just kind of like the sarcastic asshole who's, has a lot of responsibility in the roles that he's in. But I don't know. I got to see a little bit more range with what he can do with that character archetype that he always plays.
yeah.
Which I thought was kind of cool. And I thought one of the things that really stood out to me, one, my wife and I were talking about it, that not only, obviously was this like, a female-led film and stuff, but something that also no one is talking about is one of the main villains was also a female, and she was like this like prominent chemist for like the German army and stuff. And, like, that was kind of cool, and she was kind of a really sinister villain. I thought I really enjoyed her as a villain. They I think used her appropriately because she wasn't like the main villain, but she definitely played a part and had a presence. And they kind of, one of the other parallels I made with Gal Gadot's Diana reminded me a lot of Rey in The Force Awakens, where she was written tactfully as like a strong, competent female lead or whatever, but she also was coming from a place of naivety, which really lent for, I thought, some unique moments for the character in, that time period and for dialogue and stuff. It was just, I enjoyed watching her interact with the world.
I did too. They did a very good job at setting up Wonder Woman.
Because
like, I honestly thought that I would go into this film and be bored. And
not only bored, but also I was, because, again, like, I kind of laugh when people are like, oh, it's the first female-led blah, blah, like, because I see The Force Awakens and Rogue One as female-led films. But if you look at technically what they're saying, it's like female-led superhero summer blockbuster. So if you take all those words in conjunction, yes, it's
right, yeah.
It's the first female-led summer blockbuster superhero film. But based on like that marketing and some of the people, how they were talking about it on Twitter, I was really kind of worried it was going to really be in my face about it, like it's like showing me or telling me instead of showing me. Like we always talk about how Rey is a great way to write a female character, and there's a lot of wrong ways to write a female character, and I felt like it wasn't in my face, and it was good.
Well, that was the one fear going into this, right? Is that you go in and it's either gonna be in your face, like
almost like character driven, or is it a political statement? Like
exactly.
Which one is it? And Patty Jenkins, I think, did a great job.
Are you going to deliver this through the actions of the character and through the story, or are you going to deliver it through making sure every 2 seconds you're saying, I'm a strong female doing this, or like somebody else has to say,
I need no man, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because typically that's kind of how it is, and that's not the way to write a strong female. If you have to say it, or someone else in the room has to say it, then you're not doing a good job at showing it in your writing.
And with that in consideration, I thought Chris Pine did a great job at being the supportive lead, and really kind of letting Gal Gadot shine. I really enjoyed their chemistry and how their characters worked together.
Yeah. As far as those two go, it was just on point. One thing where I feel like it fell short though were the other three supporting characters, and especially with their relationship to Pine, because we're introduced to them as like mercenaries kind of, because they're talking about hiring them, but then like you find out that like Pine's been like dealing with them for a while, and they're actually like really good friends, but they don't explain it at all, and then it was just strange to me. Like I felt like there was this camaraderie or this friendship that we were supposed to empathize with or respect, and it wasn't set up in that manner. So, like, I didn't care about them at all.
I kind of felt... I see where you're coming from, and it's... I try not to do this, but I feel like I almost, like, inevitably do. But, so, like, for me, they were, like, the Howling Commandos of this movie. Because this movie, its structure is eerily similar to Captain America: The First Avengers. Yeah. And like I said, with like it feeling like World War I, I feel like it does things there where it does a great job, where Captain America didn't even feel like a World War II movie. I feel what you're saying with not having emotional connection to him, but I enjoyed the actors as the characters. And I don't, partly be because Ewan Bremner, who was the Scottish guy, I just absolutely love.
I did like him,
Guy
and
Ritchie films. He was in The Rundown.
What is his name? Saeed Taghmaoui played Samir. Sorry, I totally destroyed your name. He did a great job. I really liked him on screen.
Was he the actor?
Yeah. The Middle Eastern actor. But again, like, we're introduced to them as if they are for themselves mercenaries. Even the chief is introduced as like this, I'm selling to both sides to make money, taking advantage of the situation, and then they're immediately like, well, we're just going to fight the Germans, even though it was insinuated that like they did stuff with the Germans to like make money. So I don't know. I enjoyed them, especially the Scott and the Middle Eastern individually, but as far as a cohesive group, what they were selling at the end didn't make sense with what they introduced us with. Like, and I don't, like, and there was no progression. There was no character progression between any of them throughout the movie. So, yeah, it was almost like a family, like we're best friends.
Like at least where there was, I thought, some shallow writing with the Howling Commandos, we at least got a montage. So while we didn't quite feel the journey necessarily, we at least saw a journey happen.
Exactly.
So we knew they spent a great deal of time together. Whether or not it resonated, at least I don't know your perspective. We understood they spent
one
time
thing
together.
that really, speaking of all this, and I just thought of this, one thing that really stood out to me was when the Scott is playing the piano and singing, and Chris Pine's character says, I haven't heard him sing in years. I was like, wait a second. Like 30 minutes ago, you were going in and like kind of acting like you knew of these people and wanted to hire them to help you. And now it's like, you've been really good friends enough to know he hasn't sung in years. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Quick side note while we're on the casting stuff. Robin Wright, who played Antipope, who trained Diana on the island, that's Princess Buttercup from The Princess Bride.
It's also Frank Underwood's wife. Shoot, I can't think of her name. She's with Kevin Spacey in House of Cards.
Is she? I had no idea.
That's why, for me, it was weird seeing her in that, because I'm like, for me now, like, she's not Princess Buttercup anymore. She is, God, Underwood. What is her name? I've been watching it so much. But, like, she is the first lady in House of Cards.
So, for me, it's Princess Buttercup, then the end-all, be-all definition of someone who could kick your ass, like action star. I was like, all right, as you wish, madam.
As you wish. We'll go out of order on my little outline here a little bit. Let's go right into acting. We've talked a lot about it kind of already naturally, but there is one thing that I wanted to bring up, and that's Eugene Braverock, who played the chief. I just thought he did a terrible job.
I did too.
Terrible.
It almost made me go like, is this racist? Like, it's so caricature.
Well, for me, it wasn't even that. It was just like his dialogue was flat. It was almost like he was just sitting there reading off a page.
Well, it seemed like he was trying to do some sort of accent. Maybe I haven't watched.
His name is Eugene Braverock, so I'm assuming he is Native American.
Well, yeah. But I don't know, it didn't seem legit. And I mean, I could be ignorant to that, and maybe he does have, maybe that's what his accent is, but to me it sounded like I think
that's
what's his name? Oh my gosh.
You have IMDb on your phone. Don't me for 30 minutes.
No, Captain Jack Sparrow. What's his name?
Johnny Depp?
Johnny Depp. This reminded me of Johnny Depp playing Tonto.
Goodness gracious.
Now that is a brain fart of all brain farts.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminded me of.
See, the accent didn't get me. It was just, he brought no emotion to the role. It felt like he was just, they told him his line right before they said action, and he just said it.
Yeah.
They don't even explain, like, and this is kind of like blurring lines back to like character development and stuff, but they don't even explain why an American Indian is over in the Great War, like running this smuggling ring, basically. How did you get there? Did you come with Pine? Is that like how you guys know each other and how you're friends? Because you never say it. I haven't. Speaking of which, though, and this is kind of getting all over the place, but I love how and this is kind of just like an observation of our culture in general as people, but World War One was such a clash of cultures. It was really neat to see like all the different uniforms, how vastly different each country's uniforms were, with I don't know, just the colors and the hats and or turban depending on where you're from.
Right.
It was all just so different. And then you think about even in World War Two and beyond, like as technology grows and the world becomes more and more like one place, everything like that is like the same. Like we're starting to lose like those kind of indicators of different cultures and stuff. Like it's really cool that they capitalized on showing a lot of that in the film.
Right. And one also something that this is something that particularly bugs my wife, and it does get under my skin a little bp too, because I consider it almost lazy, and I feel like you'd be selling an aesthetic if you just stayed true to this. But the scenes where Ludendorff and the chemist are talking to each other by themselves, they wouldn't be speaking English. Like, why can't you just put German subtitles on the screen?
I thought the same thing,
to sell the period.
It's kind of a...
To me, that goes a long way.
It does. And I agree with you, but more often than not, it seems like they will just speak English. So
I know. I'm just saying, like...
speaking of things like that, I did find it unique. I don't know if you noticed, but when the subtitles came up, there was depth to them. People would walk in front, and it would cover up the subtitles for a second.
I didn't notice that.
Especially in the trench when she's talking to the lady. Mm-hmm. That's where I first noticed it. They were talking... Because the other subtitles up until that point, I think, were only her talking with the actor, Samir. And so there wasn't anybody walking. But in the trench, when she's talking to the mother and the daughter, and she's finding out that this village is like in trouble, there's hustle and bustle going across, soldiers walking across, and they actually walk in front of the subtitles. So almost like you had people in the foreground, the subtitles were in the midground, and then she was in the background of the shot.
I didn't even notice that.
Yep.
That's cool.
I thought it was kind of cool. It didn't really add or take away anything, but it was just unique.
One actor that's in this movie that I was really happy to see, because I'm a fan of his, and he's like, I have like those actors that I want to see in a superhero film at some point, just so I can see them in a cool light. Like Martin Freeman, who I thought would be really cool in a superhero film, has been in Civil War, and he's going to be in Black Panther. But David Thewlis, who played Lupin in the Harry Potter franchise, is an actor that I really like. And when I saw that he was in this movie, I got pretty excited. His character's name is Sir Patrick, and he's some government official, and he's trying to orchestrate some sort of peace treaty.
He's one of the forerunners in the British government to orchestrate the arms assist.
Yeah. So it was cool to see him in this movie, just because like I said, I have like a handful of actors that I would like to see. Jeff Goldblum was actually one of those actors, and I'm getting my wish with him. So
yeah,
maybe I need to start being more vocal about actors that I want to see, so that I'm saying them before they're cast and not after the fact.
Yeah.
Like, I always wanted that, but you don't know that. You just have to believe me.
Let's quickly talk about the action and cinematography, and then give our final thoughts. So.
Okay. I thought the use of slow-mo was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It almost went too much, but I don't think it quite went there. On the
there were some points where it was almost too much, and I think you're right. It was on Themyscira, because when it was just Diana fighting, it was really good. I liked it.
I really enjoyed how they used the lasso in the action sequences. Even like her using her shield to slide on to go in between enemies was really cool. And I also really enjoyed seeing how she fought almost defensively. Like, she was trying to not maim people. And then every time she saw Chris Pine shoot someone, like, you could tell that she was getting pissed that he was killing people. Because her point of view was, if I can stop Ares, all of this fighting will just stop, because they're under, like, basically a spell.
Yeah.
And then no one has to die. So as people are hitting the floor, she's like, those are, like, needless deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was kind of cool to see her fight, especially coming off of BVS, where Superman and Batman just like murder the crap ton of people.
Yeah.
So to see an actual DC character stay true to that sort of DC roots of we don't kill people, it was a little nice.
Yeah, I
a little
agree.
Refreshing.
One thing that I thought overall the cinematography was good. Patty Jenkins does a good job. I think the fights look really realistic to kind of keep going on this conversation. Because a lot of times, and it's unfortunate, but when you get a female fighter on film, most of the time Hollywood doesn't make it look real.
Right.
They don't. Like, I think Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson was like really one of the first to like make it kind of look realistic. One thing that bugs me though is her sandals have a little bit of a heel because I guess she's short. I don't know. But then in fight scenes, it's a flat. Like, when is Hollywood gonna stop doing this crap? When is Captain America's? Well, they fix it with it being a helmet, but like in Avengers, it's like a kind of hard plastic helmet, and then next scene it's like cloth hanging down.
Right, because because originally it was supposed to be cloth and couldn't get to work, so they went to Plan B, which was almost the ceramic helmet.
Right.
But they're trying to sell it like it's
cloth.
Like
you're not gonna fool me.
Like on the Flash, when he takes his hood off, it cuts away.
Yeah,
and then
all
back,
of a
it's
sudden
just it's a cloth hood on his back.
You're not gonna fool me. Same way, you're not gonna. I can see that there's a lift on those sandals, and I see that there's a flat right now when she's running. And I know that when you're gonna run and fight, you want them flats. So don't try to sell me on these other ones over here. I noticed.
He noticed.
I guarantee you I wasn't the only one. But action was really, really good in this film.
I enjoyed it.
I really liked it.
It's kind of funny. It goes to show that things just always work out, because Patty Jenkins was originally going to direct Thor: The Dark World, but they just couldn't agree on a story. She wanted to tell a different story than what they had written. She wanted to tell kind of a Romeo and Juliet space opera where Natalie Portman would have had an even bigger role than she did in Thor: The Dark World. So she ended up having to walk away because she said she couldn't make a great film out of the good script that they had, but that she really enjoyed collaborating with them and the experience was overall positive, but it just wasn't for her. Yeah. So then she stepped away, made Wonder Woman. Her Thor: The Dark World, I think, would have been worse than the Thor: The Dark World that we did get. So
it all works out.
It all works out.
Yep. All right. Final thoughts.
For me, Wonder Woman is solid. I think we always talked about how we couldn't judge any DCEU film accurately until after Wonder Woman, because that's when the restructure happened. Now, that's not to say that based on how good this movie does, they can't say like, well, what was done right there, and kind of readjust for the films that are to come out.
Yeah.
But considering that this movie came out before the restructure, I think that speaks leagues of Patty Jenkins.
Oh,
because
yeah, I agree.
It was. I mean, this is her.
And I would argue the issues with the movie, with the story and the dialogue, that lies solely on, because Zack Snyder did the story.
He did the story.
Zack Snyder did the story. Alan Heinberg did the screenplay. So I'm gonna hold them two accountable for what little was wrong with this movie.
Right. So when I say Wonder Woman is solid, and I think it's obviously the DCEU's first good to great film comparatively. When I say great, not great like it's the best superhero film ever, like some people are portraying it to be.
It's not.
It taking that into consideration, that is a huge milestone. That Jeff Johns didn't really have anything to say with this movie. Like it was just her.
Yeah,
this was her vision for Wonder Woman.
Yep, I agree. It's the best DCEU film so far, by far. So, which is good. I
think
I will say that there was the Justice League teaser before the movie, and I couldn't help but just cringe a little bit.
Well, it's funny. So I totally forgot. My wife Rachel didn't see BVS because we hated
not missing
because we
out.
hated it so much.
Yeah.
No, but what's funny is she goes into this movie, Man of Steel being the only DC movie that she'd seen, and having like the picture being handed to her and stuff from like Wayne. She was like, "That's a really clever teaser," like blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, that's in BVS," and that's when I realized that she hadn't seen it. But when the Justice League trailer had played, she got excited when she saw Cyborg because the actor looks good as Cyborg. But when the trailer was over, she's like, "Boy, that looks dumb." I was like, "Yeah, it does."
I also feel like when Cyborg like kind of talks at the camera in that teaser, man, oh man, they got some work to do with CGI.
They really the I don't and I want to look up by the time the movie comes out to see if they've been using the same company for all their films. And now granted they don't have Disney money, I guess, but still it's Warner Brothers. That's been one of my biggest gripes with the DC film so far, is that the VFX is just not, it's just not there.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, he looks like a floating head, like the one piece that's human, and then the rest just looks.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of just, and I don't know if maybe it's because, you know, the color palette and stuff isn't helping it out, because we always talked about one of the things that made the original Transformers films look better than they were was the strong color palette of the extreme orange and blues, so that made the metal pop.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if maybe Zack Snyder's go-to palette, which is what he's been using since
grayscale.
Right. I don't know if maybe that is a contributing factor to just the uncanny alley.
Remember the picture that came out where it was just a picture of Henry Cavill floating in the sky as Superman, and it was a still from the movie, and somebody changed the color palette to be bright.
No, they did the whole trailer.
Was it the whole trailer?
They did a whole trailer for Man of Steel.
All I saw was the
there's a
still.
There's a trailer that they used the color palette from the original Superman with the Man of Steel.
Well,
it's amazing.
From the still, it's just like it's night and day. It's like different. It's amazing what the color palette will do for your mindset and looking at something.
For the aesthetics and stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like it's if we're to do whole numbers, I would say it's a 7 out of 10. It's probably with like the lower second tier Marvel films. Like it's a step in the right direction.
This is a good one. It would probably be in tier 2 if it was. We keep talking about our tier system,
right, for the Marvel films.
But it would be a tier 2 out of 3 tiers. Iron Man 3 being the only one to hold the tier 3 position. However, it would be it's a good movie. It's well worth your time to see.
And I'll probably see it again, maybe even a few more times. Like I was entertained by it. The third act I enjoyed. I think it lost some momentum. It went on a little bit too long, but
yeah, it's good. And then, like I said, it lays a seed of hope for the future for the DCEU, because we've said it all along. We harp and just pick apart the DCEU, but it's because we want it to be good. And we get so frustrated by people who just love it because it's DC, regardless of how terrible it is. Can we just want a good DCEU, and this is a good DCEU.
Also, Minor Harp, their little new version of their DC logo, where it's almost like the pseudo Justice League theme song, whatever. It's doesn't have a good flow. There's no music or anything to it. It just seems out of place. Yeah, it's dumb.
And it's all like, it looks like the classic versions of the characters, except Aquaman has long dark hair.
No, he had blonde hair. I remember.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
because I remember looking and saying
he's really engulfed in shadow, but the light that's shining right up here, it is blonde.
Okay.
Cause I remember when I saw it, I kind of laughed and I was like, yeah, their Aquaman is not cast. It looks like Aquaman, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like motion comic. I don't know. It's just, it looked like they gave no effort to it at all.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, but maybe it'll improve. It's not like Marvel's opening little cinematic was amazing to begin with anyway.
But the one that they have now is like, gives me chills.
It's so really good. Okay. Do we want to go into some spoiler stuff, or we just want to leave it as it is?
It's not a whole lot. I don't mind. I kind of want to talk about the spoiler stuff a little bit. It has to do with a little bit more of the pacing, and I would like to talk about that final fight.
Okay.
Do you not want to?
No, we can. We've just been talking for a while.
Yeah, well. If they made it this far, they might want to hear what we say.
So this is the end of the spoiler-free version. If you listen any further, there will be things spoiled for you. That said, if you click away now, feel free to come back and listen to our spoiler section. If not, thanks for stopping by. Please be sure to leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought about Wonder Woman when you do go see it. Leave a rating. And if you're listening to the audio version, be sure to follow us. If you're on iTunes, please leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. And have a good one. Now, let's get into spoilers. Okay, before we get into even anything, I did not really care for the rework of Greek mythology to work for this movie.
What do you mean?
I'm pretty sure Zeus isn't the one who created man, for one. It was the original gods, the Titans. I'm pretty sure one of them created man, and then it was even another one who gave him fire, which gave him intelligence, and blah blah blah. And Ares does not go out and kill all the gods. So, I mean, there's all that. So, my one gripe with the Greek mythological connection, which was still cool, it's actually cool to find out that she's basically kind of like half god, which I love those kind of stories.
Right, and that's true to Wonder Woman's original origin in the comics, like being made out of clay and Zeus breathing life into her and stuff.
Yeah. I just wish that they would have tied it in with. And I'm no Wonder Woman expert, so maybe this is how they told it in the comics, but I really don't feel like you had to change Greek mythology to make the story work.
No, because I was thinking to myself about how, with Thor in the Norse mythology, they found a really cool way of making it work and it not be cheesy and stuff. And it would have been cool to just have it all just kind of be true and then be there, especially thinking ahead to future Wonder Woman films and how cool it would be, almost like the God of War games, like having some of her villains be Greek gods. And then it got me thinking, the Justice League are often referred to as like the new gods and stuff in other forms of the comics. And it kind of got me thinking, like, what if the Flash was like a reincarnated Hermes, and like what if they went down that route? And maybe that's how they explain metahumans in some fashion, like it has some sort of tie to Greek mythology or being descendants of the Greek gods or something. And I thought that's probably going too far down that rabbit hole. But I don't know. I kind of felt like you really kind of shoved yourself in a corner by just saying like, "Oh, they're all dead."
Yeah, Prometheus, the Titan, created man. So I was right.
Well, so basically, what they did was they basically merged Christianity with Greek mythology almost.
Yeah, kind of. And Zeus was by far like a benevolent god. Like he was.
Right. He was not kind.
No, not at all.
So man was their plaything. Like that's
kind of similar to our love of the Arthurian legends. Like I just have a soft spot for Greek mythology, and they did not have to change any of that to make the story work, like at all.
No, and I agree.
So. And then I had one other spoiler thing, I think. Let me pull my notes back up. If you go ahead and...
Well, I was just going to say, so obviously in the day and age of the internet...
I saw the Ares twist coming from a mile away.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, so for me, I had the internet ruin it for me months ago. So I didn't even have the chance to even see if I would see it coming. So going into it knowing that he was Ares, I actually had a little bit of fun seeing, like, the story elements that they did to subvert expectations, like having the chemist create almost like a temporary super serum to give Ludendorff super strength, so you're led to believe like, oh, it's like restoring his powers temporarily. So like things like that, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. And then when Diana kills him, there's a moment where I was like, I wonder if the people in the audience are having some sort of self-doubt, like maybe Ares isn't real, and there's some sort of like deeper philosophical message to the film. Like we're all just fighting our inner demons, and but obviously Ares turned out to be real, and it was Sir Patrick Lupin from the Harry Potter films. I enjoyed seeing him in that role because, like I said, there are certain actors that I want to see prominently in superhero films, and he played the prominent role.
I did think it was funny that they had him keep the mustache
in the flashback.
In the flashback,
no, I leaned over to Rachel. I said the same thing.
Boy is rocking a mustache back in early days of Greek.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But I thought he looked pretty cool. I enjoyed the fight scene; just went on a little bit too long.
I agree. It went on way too long. I even thought. Part of me was like, man, it's cool they're showing how powerful a Greek god could be. And then at the same time, I was like, man, they're showing him to be really powerful.
Right.
So it was almost like this line that I didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing.
Right. So, and then the other kind of like, we're in the spoiler territory, so it's okay to say, is when we were talking about the pointed dialogue earlier, the thing that really stands out for me was when Chris Pine's character, Stephen Trevor, sacrifices himself. I thought that was a really powerful moment, and Gal Gadot's reaction as an actress and as a character in that moment was very powerful and it resonated. I understood exactly what Diana was feeling. And up to that point, I really enjoyed Steve Trevor's character just in general being like, I have to do this. Like, I understand that you think that you are, trying to kill Ares or whatever, but I need to stop. It's about the greater good. It's about the, more lives. This cannot leave this base.
Yeah.
And so, he kills himself and I was like, whoa. And right as I start to feel the feels, I don't even know what the dialogue was, but she basically just said it, but she just said it. And I was like, why did you say anything? Like, why did you open your mouth and ruin this moment for me?
Yeah.
Let me enjoy Chris Pine's death. Let me enjoy you being in pain. And then, it had something to do with, like, love. When she, like, got her power up to finish fighting Ares, and she's talking about love was, like, transcends. It was so corny and cheesy. I don't know. But I was like, oh, you just ruined that moment. You ruined it.
I also didn't really care for the almost Emperor and Luke situation where
he was trying to turn her.
Yeah, and it was after, like, she's already established at this point in the fight that she's not going to join him. Like, I'm fighting you. I just watched my could-have-been lover die, beat up a bunch of dudes, and then started fighting you again. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you throw the poison lady in front of me, and now I'm going to just suddenly join you? Like, it was an odd step back from what had already been established.
Yeah.
And then he was like, do it. Yes, do
And something
it.
else about his character that just rubbed me the wrong way is once it's revealed that he's Ares, up until that point, he's only ever seen as trying to broker this peace treaty. So the whole time, me knowing that he was Ares, I was like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be some sort of, like, political subplot where, like, this is actually going to lead to something else. Almost like Moriarty trying to start a world war for a greater good and become rich. Mm-hmm. And he gets something out of it. I was like, what's he going to get out of this? And that's never addressed again. It's just, I've been fiddling everywhere and, like, I've been whispering in man's ear and starting all of this. And I was like, then why are you even brokering the peace treaty? Like, they didn't explain that for me. Yeah. And that really kind of bugged me.
I didn't even think about that, but that's a good point.
So I thought it was going to have some sort of more politics to the story, and it didn't. And I was like, well, then what were you doing there? Like, why? Your only purpose there was to try to subvert expectations. But because you're a big actor and you're obviously in a minor role, you obviously are going to have a big role to play later in the film.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Also, just one more quick thing on the feminist stuff. One of the things I really liked was, she has that scene in the boat where she's talking about the 12 chapters of, like, pleasure, and basically on the lines of, like, I need no man, like, man is only for procreation. I thought it was really cool to have that moment where she had the intimacy with Steve and Trevor to show that, like, I don't know, like, it's okay to have like a strong female lead, but then to also still be vulnerable and have love and stuff. Like, I feel like sometimes the toxic nature of that movement is just, like, anti-man. Mm-hmm. And you can have, like, it's okay for a woman to want to have companionship. Yeah. It's okay to be loving. It's okay to have intimacy. Like, I don't know. It just, for me, it was also very tactfully done.
That brought up something that I had nearly forgot, but in that same scene, he's explaining marriage to her, and then they had, like, that funny quip of, do they like it? And he's like, no, or something.
Or he says, like, she goes, does it last? And he goes, most of the time it doesn't. But back then it did. It did.
And
it was making a cultural reference to present day
when
in a period piece.
Yeah, and it was odd. I was like, that's not something that he would say.
Right.
Like, he can talk about how maybe, and he does later in the film, about how he's never experienced it. Like, he doesn't know what that's like because doesn't have love or a family or anything like that.
Right.
But marriages lasted, I mean, for good or ill, they did last back then. And the general,
because that was the stigma. You had a red X on your back if you got divorced. Like, it was like you stay together because you don't get divorced.
Yeah. And more times than not, just because of the time it was, I mean, things were fine, like, it's not like today where it's just terrible.
Cool. So if you have stuck with us this long, that either tells me that you have seen Wonder Woman and you wanted to hear us talk about the spoiler stuff, or you just don't give two butt toots and you're like, I want to hear everything they have to say and then I'm going to go see it. Thank you for stopping by and joining us here on this new episode of Enter the Nerdosphere. As Clayton said before the spoiler section, be sure to like, comment, subscribe in all the places below. I'm going to start to get into my Philip DeFranco impression. I'm going to start using my hands like this. Say thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you guys. If you want to leave a comment, we really want to talk to you guys.
Right here, you gonna click right here.
I really like how he uses his fingers like this. And it's always like this. He's always kind of moving this way. His jaw always moves a little bit like this. And I really love you guys, you beautiful bastards. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we'll see you next time.